Hello and welcome everyone to Red Planet Live. I am your host, Ashton Zeth. I am elated to be hosting the Mars Society's podcast and leading the conversation about human exploration of the universe and the future settlement of Mars. As a longtime space enthusiast, I am passionate about STEM education and making humanity an interplanetary species. Thank you everybody for joining today and supporting Red Planet Live. Want to kick off today's episode with just another quick reminder. We are getting close to October. Can you believe we're halfway through July already? And that means the 2025 International Mars Society Convention is around the corner. It's currently scheduled for October 9th through the 11th. That's a Thursday to Saturday at the University of Southern California in Los Angeles. This year, the Mars Society is celebrating its 28th convention year, and this year's theme is also Mars, the time has come. We will be focusing on Mars exploration, human settlement planning, and cutting edge technology. So hope you will be there. Please go to that link right there and you can register. Look forward to seeing you in LA in October. Okay, so really excited about today's episode. Transparently, being a podcast person and entering the space industry, you kind of feel like a little bit of an outsider at the beginning. But I was able to kind of find some space communicators online, and I really liked their content. So I'm excited to be speaking with three of those ladies today. Each one of these space communicators has a massive online presence, inspiring people by the fantastic wonders of space. So I want to first introduce Camille, who is an award-winning science communicator and space industry marketing executive with nearly a decade of experience spanning across aerospace engineering, business development, and marketing across startups and major aerospace primes. As the founder and CEO of Modulate Media, Camille works at the intersection of public engagement and industry growth, helping space, science, and tech organizations craft and implement high-impact marketing strategies that engage investors, customers, and top talent with their mission. Known online as the Galactic Gal, Camille's engaging edutainment videos capture a global audience of over 700,000 space and tech enthusiasts, making complex space topics accessible while inspiring the next generation of STEM professionals. She's a sought-after global public speaker, and her work has been featured in prominent publications including the New York Times and the Washington Post. As a leading industry voice, she blends technical expertise with storytelling to drive engagement, shape public perception, and strengthen support for space technology that benefits life on Earth while expanding humanity's reach into the cosmos. Camille, thank you so much for being here.
Thank you for having me. That was a long bio.
It was
Appreciate it. Appreciate it.
Excited to be chatting with you. And next up, we have Alexandra, who is an enthusiastic science communications expert who shares her love of space by creating engaging and exciting videos. She's had over 4 million followers across her social media channels who share her love of science. Alexandra was recently included on the Forbes 30 Under 30 list. That's amazing, for her science communication and outreach efforts. With her background working in the space industry at both NASA and the U.S. Space Force, she brings the wonder of the cosmos to her audience on Earth by simplifying complex scientific topics. Alexandra often appears in podcasts and on TVs to talk about astronomy. Alexandra is passionate about increasing science literacy, promoting women in STEM, and introducing young people to astronomy. Originally from Boston and a proud graduate of Vanderbilt University, Alexandra has a bachelor's of science in human organizational development, specializing in leadership and organizational effectiveness. Alexandra, thank you so much for being here.
I'm so excited to be here.
This is so wonderful. Again, I'm so excited to chat with you. So last but not least is Susan Martinez, also known as Susie at AstraSue. She is a lunar payload integration manager in the aerospace industry, where she leads payload integration for lunar missions, including supporting NASA payloads on her commercial lunar lander. She began her career as a flight controller for the International Space Station and has since carved out a unique path in the space industry. Susie is also the creator of AstraSue, a science communications platform she launched during the pandemic, bridging her love for design, like nail art, with her passion for space. As one of the few women in her university's mechanical engineering program and a twin raised in a hands-on technical household, her journey has been anything but ordinary. Today, she's a rising voice in STEM outreach, blending technical expertise with authenticity and empowering others to achieve their goals. At AstraSue, Susie, thank you so much for being here as well. All right, we'll give her just a second while we get the last
she's
little bit
in
of
a black hole right now.
yep.
Really just weeded herself out there.
Right. Hey, you know what? It's tech. We've all been there. You can't help some of the technical issues, but that's okay.
We know everything about her, so we'll answer for her.
Perfect. It's like she's here. We'll answer all the questions for her. Well, I'm excited, like I said, to be chatting with all of you. I've followed you online for some time, and I remember when I started hosting the podcast 2.5 years ago. I listed your guys' names as people that I wanted to chat with. So
did you really?
I sure did. I'll prove it to you. I told our PR director, he asked me, hey, put together a dream list of people you'd like to speak with. And I had your guys' names down there. And so, yeah, this is a full circle moment. So excited to be chatting with you. And I'm looking to learn a lot from you guys in this conversation. So excited to be chatting.
That's amazing.
We're going to start the conversation the way that we always do on Red Planet Live with question of the day. And this is just meant to be an icebreaker. There's no right or wrong answer. It's just your opinion. So I'll give you a second to think about it. But today's question of the day is, if you could collaborate with any other influencer, who would it be and why?
I hate this question.
I love this question.
I hate it. I knew Allie would love this question. I'm like, every time somebody asks me like for somebody's name, it's just like instantly I forget everyone's name ever.
Yeah.
Well, I'm going to go like a little selfish and I'm going to pick something that I want to do really badly.
Okay.
So I'm going to go with one of the influencers that's doing like animal stuff. Like I'm inclined to say the Irwin family.
Okay.
Because I count them kind of as influencers right now, and I could get, a backstage Australia zoo situation, maybe touch a crocodile. So I'm gonna go with them, but really any of those animal people, like that guy who walks through the Everglades, he's very cool, but I would stay back.
Right. Safe distance.
Exactly.
Okay. The Irwins. That's such a good answer. Okay. Camille, any thoughts?
Don't ask me.
Here, I'll give you a second to think about it. So one of the other women on that list that I wrote down, like my dream list of who I'd like to chat with, was Kelly Girardi. And so I've reached out to her before, and we're would love to communicate with her at some point. But an influencer, I mean, she obviously falls under that list. I think she just made the Times top 100 for influencers. So her or Mark Rober. I love Mark Rober. He's just so infectious, and just I love his positive energy. And I think he makes science easy for kids and adults. As somebody who doesn't have a technical background, my background is in communications and business. I felt like a lot of his content resonates with me, and I really want to get a Crunchbox so that I can a kit and make some sort of tool. So I think Mark Rober or Kelly Girardi would be one of my answers.
If you do it, I think you have to convince him to let you come to his cool studio with all of his big games. And I think he has a mechanical bull and
so cool.
a foam pit.
That would be peak. I mean, I couldn't imagine a more fun type of interview.
That'd be so fun.
Okay, so I know Alexandra is already in this lane, but Hank Green, either of the Green brothers would be really cool.
Hank Green, okay.
So
okay.
Alexandra, you gotta hug me up here.
I got you.
Thank you.
Okay, those are great. I love all of those. We're gonna give. Let's see. Susie is working on getting added, so we'll give her just a sec. But let's jump right in. And I've got a ton of questions for you. I'm sure we're not gonna get to them all. But I try to start at the beginning. Tell me about your background. I imagine for a lot of us growing up, saw astronauts in space, and we thought, oh, I want to do that. So we dream about our futures, and we aspire to grow up and be some of those people that we emulate. So did you envision yourself working in aerospace? Was this always a career path that you saw yourself going down even as a kid? How did you end up here? Let's see. Alexandra, you want to take this one first?
Sure. I had no idea that I was going to end up in the space industry at all. I always knew that I was really drawn to science, but I didn't know what realm I wanted that to be in. I considered being a doctor. I considered a bunch of different things, but there she is.
Sorry, guys.
That's okay. But I didn't really discover space until I was in college, actually.
Mhm.
But I will say that since the second I took a astronomy class, it was over for me. But before that, I had no idea, and I ended up not being involved in the space industry until I was a sophomore in college,
Mhm.
and that was when I had my first, internship and really got into it.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah, Camille, what about you? Did you always see yourself working in the aerospace industry?
So when I was 4, we lived in Florida, and we lived on the other side of the peninsula from where they launch rockets, obviously. But I saw a space shuttle launch, and that's my first memory. I remember my parents just like taking me on top of a parking deck and watching it, and like there's a picture of like the trail that you can see even like from that far away. And I distinctly remember like looking up at my parents and saying, I want to be an astronaut, and just like being so fascinated with the idea of like this giant machine like launching off our planet with like all this like fire that you could see like, across the Florida peninsula, and then like sending people to space. And I like didn't know anything about it. Obviously, I was just like enamored, as the kids are. And then we moved back shortly after, like 6 months later, we moved back to North Carolina. I'm from a rural small town in Appalachia. And so I didn't really have access to, STEM outside of like, just the normal like science and math that you get in school.
Mhm.
And, I didn't really like see myself doing that because like I was already in like the gifted programs and like, being a smart girl, especially like in the early 2000s, I feel like is like a little bit of social suicide, and I'm an only child. And so like, I just like really needed to like have that like connection at school. So I just kind of like hit it and, I didn't really like think about it. I just like didn't consider it a career opportunity for me. It was just geographically like so distant. But yeah, it wasn't until I ended up like touring the University of Tennessee, where I ended up going, and I saw all these women in engineering, and I was like, oh, wait a second, this is potentially an option for me. And then yeah, I didn't actually work in the space industry until after my sophomore year of college. After my junior year of college. Before that, I was in like the aero side of things and like jet engines, supersonics and stuff. But yeah, definitely like always like a lifelong dream of mine, but like not really something I thought I could do until much later in life.
Yeah. Okay. Well, I'm glad that you walked into University of Tennessee and you said, "Hey, there's a place for me here. I could do this." And look where you are now.
Yeah.
Susie, what about you? So the question was, did you always see yourself being in aerospace when you were a kid? Did you want to be an astronaut? Did you look up to those people, or was it like a total just pivot by chance? You ended up here, or did you always want to be on this path?
Yeah, so I've always wanted to someday work in something to do with space. But I'm from Appalachia, like these two amazing women. And it, like Camille just mentioned it, there were no opportunities. I'm from a super small town in Kentucky, and there were no women engineers. I didn't know any women engineers. And I wanted to go into engineering because my dad is a mechanic, and he made sure that I have a twin. My twin and I were always, our cars were up to date. We knew how to change our oil. We knew how to change a tire, all these things. So he really kind of instilled that engineering mindset into both of us. It wasn't until I was in community college already. So I did 2 years of community college, and I did 2.5 years at my university to finish up my degree. And I was on the Student Government Association. I was the vice president. My twin was the president, of course. Um, and our student government advisor had found this pamphlet for something called INCAS. And it was, NASA Community College Scholars Association. And she was like, hey, I think you should apply this. And I was like, okay, well, I think that's cool. Like, whatever. It says it's in Huntsville, Alabama. Is there a NASA center in Huntsville, Alabama? She was like, yeah, there is. There's more than just Florida and Houston. And I was like, oh, okay, I didn't, whatever. Cool. And so I go on the website, and the website doesn't exist anymore. This pamphlet is from the 90s. And so I have to Google it, and I didn't know what it was, right? So I search NASA internships, and I get in there, my profile, I do all my stuff, and I apply, and I get one. And when I get the email from the intern coordinator, she says, congratulations on your 10-week internship in Huntsville, Alabama. You're going to be doing this, blah, 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 whatever. And I looked at the pamphlet and I went, this says it's 2 weeks. What do you mean? I had applied to a NASA internship and gotten a NASA internship thinking that I was applying to this community college program, which I've actually gone on to mentor a ton of community college students in that program, because I always say, thanks to this was the reason that I got to work at NASA, because I had accidentally applied to the wrong thing. But I feel like my journey into space has always been something that was completely far-fetched, and now it's real. So it's pretty cool. I don't know. I love it.
Yeah, that's amazing. I mean, each of your stories is an inspiration, especially as somebody who, again, I don't have a technical background. I'm not an engineer. My background is in business and communications. And, you get into college and you're like, I can't be an engineer. Like I'm not smart enough for that. I'm not qualified for that. So
I felt like I'm an engineer student as well.
Okay, great. It's not just me. But I didn't, get involved in space until I became an adult. So, my next question for you is, as somebody who tends to feel like an outsider, who battles the imposter syndrome, how do you get over that? Sometimes I have to remind myself that, I get to interview amazing individuals like each of you, and being involved with the Mars Society and having just finished my executive master's for space leadership, business, and policy. Thank you. Now I am part of this industry. So what do you say to the people that, maybe they're afraid to take that leap, or they don't know how to get started, or they think, hey, there's not a place for me here. I'm not one of those cool space kids.
I can go here. I think the biggest thing to remember is that legitimately every single person is faking it until they make it. Every single person in all of existence ever, period, in the future, into perpetuity.
Mm-hmm.
And just really reiterating that to myself over and over and over and over, just really helped me fake it until I make it, right? And I remember very, very early in my career, fresh out of college, and I had just started posting and building Galactic Gal, which I kind of never thought would happen. It just kind of happened, which I think kind of what happened to all of us. And then I started to be, I'm a very outspoken person, so I would speak out at work and all this other stuff. And then finally, one day I was working at Lockheed Martin, and huge, obviously biggest defense contractor in the world, and has this internal website that people read, right? And they were like, hey, we want you to write something. And I'm like, what the me? I'm sorry, what? And then I was like, you know what? I don't know. I think Delulu is the Solulu is kind of my current mantra. And so I wrote about imposter syndrome. I legitimately did. And I was like, I have imposter syndrome. What am I doing here? I didn't think that this was ever a reality for me. And now I'm working on sending humans back to the moon. What the heck? And I had so many vice presidents at Lockheed Martin and other directors and super high level people send me personal Skype messages back when Skype was still a thing.
Yeah.
And, which seems like a whole different life ago. And they were like, I've never been able to put it into words, because the term imposter syndrome is not really something that the older generation I think uses a lot. And so they were like, I have felt like this my entire career. How did I end up here? I'm just faking it until I make it. I'm ready for somebody to figure it out.
Mm-hmm.
But no one figures it out, because literally everyone is doing the exact same thing. So I love to just tell people that when they come to me and ask me that question. It's listen, if you can have literally vice presidents and executive, leadership at the largest defense contractor in the world tell you that they don't know what they're doing, it's okay if you don't know what you're doing either.
Yeah, it's okay. We're all in the same boat.
Yeah.
Alexandra, what about you? Have you battled imposter syndrome?
Oh, from the day I was born. No, I totally agree. And I think that there's this idea that you have to feel really capable and confident in what you're doing.
Mm-hmm.
And you don't. You don't have to feel that way. It's so nice to feel that way. And it's so nice to think, I'm so good at my job. But you can also feel really good at your job without thinking you know exactly what you're doing.
Mm-hmm.
And you're allowed to pretend, and you're allowed to put on a little work alter ego,
Mm-hmm.
and step into that every morning. And I think that for anybody hesitant and who doesn't think that they can do whatever role they're aspiring to, I would just say that you're allowed to make up your own job. Everyone in this call did. And you're allowed to, not follow a prescribed anything. You can make it up as you go, and you can mold it to fit yourself. And it might not seem that way with a job opening, but I know from my work experience that once you get that job, you really can wiggle your way around and get into different meetings and pick and choose what you want to do. Of course, if you're in the right space and have the right community. But that's what I would say is I would say you can mold things to fit yourself rather than fit yourself to something else.
It's such a good reminder. Yeah, no, I appreciate that. That resonates. Susie, anything to add on the imposter syndrome piece?
Yeah, I have very similar answers, but on Alex's note about making your job fit you. When I moved over from NASA to the company that I work for now, I was hired to do something very similar that I was doing at NASA, and now I'm in charge of their entire lunar payload program, and that was just one job switch over, and it was somebody that trusted me, and it just turned out to be like the dream. And I've even taken it further to like whittle my way into smaller niches and this kind of stuff, and now I'm responsible for a lot of stuff, which is, it has a good and bad, but the point is that I was able to like take what fit me best and also get rid of the things that didn't fit me best. Because if something makes me feel more an imposter, right? I have imposter syndrome out the wazoo, but if it makes me feel more, sometimes those are the things that you can sometimes get rid of. So just another note.
Yeah, I would always, if I saw an exciting meeting, even if it had nothing to do with my job, I would just say, can I come? Can I join? Can I take notes for you? Can I come?
That's how you get involved.
And no one ever said no.
They never do. It's amazing.
Yeah, I feel like I kind of stumbled into this podcasting. I joined the Mars Society as a member, and through that process, they announced an ambassador program to do like public outreach and educate the public on why Mars, why is that important, how does that benefit us here on Earth. And in that interview process, they said, hey, have you ever thought about hosting a podcast? And I kind of chuckled and no, people tell me that all the time. It's my favorite thing to talk about. And they said, no, we're actually looking for a host for our podcast. Would you be interested? And here we are 2.5 years later. And like I said, I've had an opportunity to interview so many amazing people. So sometimes when that opportunity does arise and it comes up and it presents itself, even if you don't feel like, hey, I'm qualified for this, you might be more qualified than you think you are. And
absolutely. All of us have stumbled into some things.
Yeah.
And I think that to be open is such a gift in your career.
Yeah. Well, I'm thinking about, if you come from a background, or maybe you don't come from a space background, part of the appeal why I like each of your platforms, as I mentioned before, is taking complex scientific information and making it digestible for the average everyday person that is not technical and not in the space industry. So my question to you, and this will be helpful for me as well, how do you stay informed? How do you find reliable data? How do you make sure that your content is not only engaging, but accurate, and we're putting out responsible information out into the ether?
Can I go first? I have the shortest answer. Yeah. I don't actually do a lot of research. They do a lot of research. So I will say, if I ever have a question about anything that one of my friends is an expert on, and you're looking at literally the group and like 2 other people, and we just, hey, is this accurate? Hey, is this real? Whatever. I do a lot of informational videos on stuff I already know about, which is why I don't do that much research. But it's always amazing to have connections in the industry to just be able to say, hey, you actually worked on this. Like, is this, like, I found this, is this real, or that kind of stuff. It pays to have friends that are able to work around in the industry. But Alexandra and Camille, they do all of the research. So that's short answer.
Yeah, a tight-knit group that knows, literally the experts worked on this payload, this project, this mission.
Actually, yes. And it's crazy. Anytime somebody has an ISS question, they're like, hey, Susie, like, is this accurate? And most of the time, no. Most of the time, it's not.
Okay, we're fighting rumors and conspiracy.
We are.
Alexandra, what about you? How do you stay informed? I mean, you have so many videos, so much content, and I love the way that you present the information. How do you stay informed? How do you make sure that it's accurate? And then how do you take those complex, really dense technical information and making it understandable for the everyday person?
Yeah, definitely. Well, I think it's incredibly hard because you can't really go on a mainstream news channel and click on the space tab and have the up-to-date information. There's maybe one article a week. So it really is difficult to source kind of material.
Mm-hmm.
A lot of my content is informed by my audience's questions. So if they ask me something, I will go ahead and do that research. But I also do a lot of space news.
Mm-hmm.
And that's honestly just I've compiled my personal sources for, all of these agencies and academia, and finding those original studies and those original papers and then trying to make sense of them. I think it's really, really important to get your information from that source rather than from articles about that source. So I
Mm-hmm.
think that scientific literacy in reading those papers is probably the most important skill for this specific job.
Yeah, that's a skill set in its own, reading those.
It's very hard. Learning how to read a scientific paper is incredibly difficult.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Camille, what about you? How do you take all this information that's out there, make it easy to understand for the everyday person, and make it engaging for listeners?
Mhm. Yeah, so I have had, as we were kind of talking about, just kind of like stumbled into things, right? And so I kind of stumbled my way into business development and marketing within the space industry. So my content is all focused on the space industry, space technology, and not just exploration, but like how does it help life on Earth, and like what innovations are happening. And so a lot of it is like my industry connections. I worked at a startup that it's a space infrastructure startup. It's actually kind of like where I have like just kind of like generally lived in my career, is like space infrastructure. What the heck does that mean? It's like you think about infrastructure here on Earth and power and any utility kind of thing as well. And when you work in infrastructure, you kind of see the whole industry. And so that was my first startup after I left like big corporate aerospace. That job, I got to see like the entire industry, and that just like informed so much of my ability to do what I'm doing now. And so then also like kind of transitioning from engineering into business development and like learning, hey, like read space news every single morning. There's other outlets like Payload, like read the industry publications to like get a feel for what's going on, because like you can trust, industry publications like pretty well actually. But like, like what Alexandra was saying, it's like hard to go on a mainstream outlet and like find either up-to-date information or like the most accurate. And so honestly, yeah, like signing up for like industry newsletters and just building your like connections on LinkedIn. But yeah, I think most of my stuff like does come from just like my work experience and like learning the entire industry enough to like be at a point where I can be like, yeah, like that's true, or that's, a little conflated, or, I have like deep opinions on this because I have experience working on it in it.
I think another thing that's really important is that, like, I'm not an expert. I am not the expert in any of these topics. I don't have a PhD in exoplanets or brown dwarfs or supernova. I don't have a PhD in any of those things. So relying on the people who do, I think, is incredibly important. And I think that probably my most used phrase across all of my videos, across everything I put out, is I don't know. Because if I don't know something, I want to be honest about that. And it also shows like where there is a gap in at least my knowledge, because I also think that's exciting. And I think that leaving a little mystery is exciting, and somebody else might know, but that's not me. And I'm not that person. And I think that that is better than me using my best guess to make up that information. And so I think that that's important too. And so I'll source as much information as I can and use my network. But if I can't get that answer, I'm going to tell people that.
Yeah. I think that that brings a level of authenticity and you're being genuine. You know, I'm not going to pretend like I know something when I don't. And if I don't know the answer, I'm going to go find it. And then to your point, you know, a lot of your content comes from questions that, you know, audience or listeners pose. And that's how you kind of know where you're going to research or know what you're going to focus on for your next video. So I think that's valuable to lean in your network, your community. If I've got a question, I'm going to reach out to you guys. Hey, help me find the answer to this. And yeah, I was talking with somebody the other day, and they were asking, who are you speaking to next? And obviously, I mentioned all of you, and they're like, oh, they're space communicators, and I was like, hold up, that's just one part of it. I mean, giving the laundry list, you know, listing your backgrounds and where you've worked. And highlighting, you know, NASA, Orbifab, VAST, like all of the companies that you've been with before. And they were like, oh, wow, like they are experts. They're from the industry. I'm like, yeah, that's why they're such good space communicators, and you should follow them and listen to their content. But not only are you guys content creators and collaborators, but you're friends. And I think that's part of the appeal of why I want to talk with each of you. Is because you guys have relationships and friendships outside of, you know, being an influencer. So how did you all meet? Was it just because you were all women in aerospace and said, hey, let's connect? Did your paths cross in some way at a conference or a convention? How did you all become
social media?
Social media.
Yeah, all of us
social media.
Before we met each other in person. Actually we met at the same time at the Space Gala, like for the first time. Right?
Did I hear Space Gala?
Yeah, her audio's going in and out, but we met for the first time in person at a nonprofit event called the Space Gala. But we had been friends on social media before that, so it was a fun little, almost like reunion. But it was really the first time we were all meeting. Well, Camille and I had actually met before that.
Yeah, we did. Oh my God.
We had met. She was in Washington D.C. where I was living, and we had been friends on social media, so we got lunch, we got ramen together.
Yeah. Yeah, meeting through social media. And I think that like we all became just like super close friends over the years. I mean, like several years now, because like kind of what we've been saying is like we've all kind of like fallen into things or, you know, created our own path. And what we do is so unique that like it is very hard to like find people that know what you're going through every day, right? Like having like obviously Alexandra has the most followers, but like having like millions of followers in like the collective group, right? It's like, how do you manage the public perception and the fact that like everything you do is like scrutinized and just under a microscope, and you have to be so careful about privacy and you know, just like all these things that like, you know, I don't want to say the normal person. I hate that term, but it's like that other people don't have to deal with necessarily.
Yeah.
And, you know, in addition to that, like, you know, dealing with bias and misogyny and, you know, trolls on the internet and like all this kind of stuff, I think it's just like, I think the best friendships form over like shared experiences and essentially shared trauma.
Yeah.
Yeah, exactly. So
shared trauma.
Yeah, I think we all understand these really unique situations that nobody else would. And so I think that we started bonding over that, but that our friendship has really grown from that. And you know, everyone I ever am close to knows that if there's a notification on my phone, it's one of these girls. And I mean, we talk all day, every day, all day, every day. So it's really grown from just, you know, navigating this really interesting career to, you know, what are we making for dinner? So.
And you guys get pictures of my dinner all the time.
Yeah.
Yeah, you know, Camille, you bring up a good point. There's trolls, there's people that are questioning, you know, maybe your experience, your background. Do you really know as much as you present that you do? And there's always that little bit of doubt. So, you know, does the thought ever cross your mind about quitting social media? Yeah, maybe I don't want to be so public. Maybe you know, I'm at a phase of my life where I want to be a little bit more private. Does the thought ever cross your mind that maybe maybe I don't want to be a public persona
I'm
anymore.
laughing because yes.
Every day.
Yeah, I think a lot of us do, and I think it's a very normal thing. I mean, even with actresses and other normal like famous people, right? It's like, oh gosh, like it's pros and cons of everything. I always kind of said like I didn't want to be a content creator full time just because I don't personally like the pressures that come with that necessarily.
Yeah.
I don't think I'm not as equipped to handle it as Alexandra is, and she's amazing at it. But last year I left my 9 to 5. It's never 9 to 5, obviously, in startup world, but I left like working at a company to do my own thing. And I spent a year just kind of like figuring out like, what do I want to do? And like, I'm so thankful to be in a position where like I can provide for myself off the money I make on social media. And like social media has like completely changed my life. And I'm in a position now that I would never have been in if I hadn't started posting on Instagram, which I'm so thankful for. But yeah, there comes a time where it's like, wow, like, it's like social media is constantly changing. The algorithms are constantly changing, and you're like, is my self-worth tied to these numbers that are completely, like not indicative of who I am as a person? And there's like this whole corporate capitalist machine behind it, right? And there's just a lot of things. And so I'm in a position now where I'm like transitioning to, like I'm still going to be doing my social media, but like transitioning into something else, which I'm not ready to talk about yet, but in a couple of weeks, just because of, I think anyways, for me, at least it's like a common question.
Yeah. Let's see. Susie, Alexandra, what about you? Have this thought ever crossed your mind? Like maybe I don't want to do this.
I have the best job in the world. So
Allie's like good at it.
The thought of quitting does not cross my mind, but I've put up some really, really firm boundaries. And people don't know much about me as a person. They don't know much about my life other than, my dog. And so I think that that's been really good for me and protecting my mental health, especially because hearing the opinions of millions of people is not good for anyone.
Right.
But hearing the opinions about millions of people from millions of people on the science I'm discussing is a lot different than hearing the opinions from millions of people on my life. And so I think that those, walls I've built up have been really healthy. And I do think that it maybe inhibits my growth on social media in some way because people maybe don't feel as connected to me as they could. And that's hard because I would love for my audience to feel really connected to me because I am a person and, I would love to know all of them. But I do think that I think I've done it in a very healthy way for myself.
That's such a good note. I mean, boundaries, professional boundaries, not letting people into the super personal details, protecting your privacy. I think that's valuable more now than ever. I'm glad you said that. And that those thoughts have crossed my mind as well. Susie, what about you?
When
not doing social media?
Well, every day. But when I first started doing this in 2020, I never thought I would get this far. Let's just be clear. And I wish so deeply that I had more of a boundary situation like Alexandra does. Because I feel like I go to places and they're like, oh, you're going to do this and you're going to see this person. And I'm like, ooh, parasocial relationship here. Like, I don't know you. This is weird. But I do try to connect a lot with my audience, and I have a 9 to 5. Well, 9 to 5, right? And it's more like a 6 to 10, but whatever, it's fine. But I have 6 to 10, like 14 hours. It's fine.
Talk about that later.
But yeah, we'll talk about it later. It's fine. Also, that's 16 hours. I have a degree in engineering, and I can't do quick math. That was 16 hours. Anyway,
calculate it in the moment.
I wish I had more boundaries, but it's actually been it hinders my content production because I've been starting to try and set those boundaries because I've seen how happy Alexandra is, and when it comes to like
oh, my video went viral. And I'm like, you didn't have to turn off the comments? What? That's amazing. Because every time I have a video that goes viral for me, right? Viral for me. I have to turn the comments off because they get so bad. They get so heinous. Like, it's so horrible because it's not about what I'm sharing. It's about me. It's about what I look like. It's about the people I'm with. Like, it gets, the parasocial aspect of this gets scary very quickly. And when I go somewhere that I'm a keynote at, or I'm an influencer to meet or whatever, and I go to that thing for people to meet me there, people know a lot about me, and that scares me just a little bit. It's amazing because every time I'm out with Alexandra, like people know who she is. Like, she gets noticed. We get stopped, you know. And like, oh my gosh, I love this video that you made on this, or oh, that sounds really familiar. Like, literally just this weekend, somebody was like, I think I've seen that video that you're talking about right now before, because they remembered like what like the verbiage she used, and they remembered like what the content was about, but they didn't remember, oh, it's Alexandra. She is this person. She lives here. She looks like this, you know, these kind of things, which is the things that they would recall if they met me. So I am trying with the boundaries. I'm trying to be more like Alexandra every single day. Anyway,
I will say too that like it is a privilege, right? Like, I think, like I said, like social media has like changed so many, I mean, all of our lives, right? And so many other people's lives. And it's like such a really cool opportunity to like, I mean, all of us kind of started in like the mecca of social media, right? Like TikTok was a thing, and like we were all sitting at home on COVID. And so like I grew a lot because I had like 2 viral moments that just like exploded the platform. And I don't think that I would have the same opportunities today in like today's landscape. And so it is a privilege, I will say. And like, I just like, even if the thought crosses my mind, or like, you know, I pivot a little bit, I still come back to it because like, I see how much impact it does have, and how much, you know, I look back, like everything I do is, what would little Camille want to see? And for me, it was, you know, growing up in a geographically not space area with no access to, you know, seeing women in STEM, because obviously social media didn't exist and the internet was very new in the grand scheme of things. But like, so now it's like, wow, I have this opportunity to like put something out there and like show people what I wish I had seen growing up, you know. And I think that always kind of grounds me in times where I'm like, oh my God, why am I doing this? Like, okay, let's stop focusing on the numbers. It's ridiculous. Like, I can't control that. What I can control is what I put out there and how I impact people.
Mm-hmm. I appreciate your comments so much, because these are definitely things that I've thought about. You know, do I want to start creating content, you know, more than I currently do, obviously, with the podcast? Is that a road that I want to go down? And those thoughts that you kind of wrestle with, you know, being grateful for having a platform and being able to influence, and when you get those messages that, oh, you know, my daughter wants to be an astronaut because she saw your video or something like that. I mean, those things resonate and make you proud of what you do. But at the same time, seeing comments, Susie, to your point about like people commenting on how you look and how you talk and what you're wearing, like, okay, that's not why I'm creating content. So it makes you think, maybe this isn't a road I want to go down. So I appreciate your comments on that. But Camille, I wanted to ask you specifically. So last week I was in DC, and on my way there, I was watching the movie Contact. So I kind of have a routine that if I'm going to do some space thing, I want to watch a space movie the night before. It just become a tradition now. So I was watching Contact on my way there. And I know that last year you had the incredible opportunity to interview Dr. Jill Tarter, who is the real life inspiration behind Carl Sagan's Contact. I'm sure that was a full circle moment for you as well. How did that conversation come about? What was it like connecting with a legendary figure? And was there anything that she said that left a lasting impression?
Yeah. I'm trying to think of how it like exactly happened. But it was definitely some sort of like network connection at a conference, and we just started talking about it. And oh, actually, I do remember now. We were in Mexico City for one of our other friends in this whole group that we keep talking about, Katia Chazareta, and she's one who flew on Blue Origin several years ago as the first astronaut from Space for Humanity. And so now she has, talking about incredible platforms, right? Like now she has this incredible platform and this incredible ability to just influence so much change in Latin America. And so she had a professional development event, and some of us flew down to speak there. And basically somebody who sits on the board of advisors for the SETI Institute, the Search for Extraterrestrial Intelligence, was there. And I was like, oh my God, like in addition to the space shuttle launch when I was 4, like contact is the other reason that I just like really, really, really love space. And I've always been like super into SETI. And unfortunately, like or fortunately, right, I chose a path that was a little bit more like financially stable for me. But I've always just like loved the idea of like, what if we find something out there? Like I just like cannot wrap my head around us being alone. Like Carl Sagan says, like if it's just us, it feels like an awful waste of space. We just started talking about it, and I was like expressing my passion. And he's like, oh well, hey, we have this like SETI 40th anniversary in November. Like, why don't you come? And I was like, oh, cool, yeah. And so then I was like, actually, in my whole year of like trying to figure out what I wanted to do, I did a lot of YouTube. Right now, that's not what I want to do. But as part of that, I was like, oh, I like want to do these like interview series. And so SETI was like a really great opportunity for that. So interviewed a couple people. I published 2 of the interviews, of course, the first one with Jill. And like, I just remember sitting there one day, because I didn't think that I was going to get to interview Jill. Like she is, obviously much older, and I didn't even know she was coming. And then one day I get an email and they're like, oh, here's the interview list. And she's on there. And I'm like, did you mistype that? You mistyped that. And they were like, no, like I'm serious. And I was like, okay. And so I like was panicking. But yeah, I mean, oh my God, she was so sweet, so nice, just like such an incredible mentor. Like I wish I had more time to talk with her, not only now, but like throughout my career. I would just like love that opportunity. But, I think that, the biggest thing that stood out to me was, in addition to like how personable she was and just like how interested in my life she was, which she like obviously did not have to be at all. But just like, what happens like if we do find life out there, and like, is humanity ready? And when is that going to happen? And, just her walking through like how she started the SETI Institute because of, they were like, it was some sort of funding issue. And I was like, holy crap, like you've built this whole thing because you saw an opportunity. And that's kind of how like all of my career has gone so far. And so like, I hope to just like keep emulating that like throughout my career.
What a special moment. And
I know. I was like, don't cry.
We'll sit there, wait till the end, like let it all out. Yeah, no, that's amazing. And I knew that we were going to be having this conversation, so I was really excited to ask you about that. What an incredible opportunity. So, Alexandra, I know, again, creeping on Instagram, that you were recently at a large TikTok event. And I was curious. I mean, I'm sure you're at a couple, but
I know. I'm trying to think. Was it VidCon?
It might have been. I think there was a couple recently. Like, right? Were there a few events back to back?
I've been traveling for 6 weeks straight, so I'm trying to think about which one. I'm thinking you're talking about VidCon.
Okay, VidCon, and I know you're doing meet and greets with people. And so I was curious, like, how has your life changed since becoming a public figure? What's it like meeting people in real life? You're not just behind the computer, behind the camera. What is it like meeting people who feel that they have a connection? We were kind of alluding to this earlier. Maybe they want more of a connection with you. But what is it? How's your life changed? And being so popular on TikTok, like, how has that changed your life on a day-to-day?
It's amazing. Like I said, I have the best job in the world. I have so much fun. I mean, I love space so much. And I have so much fun that my job is like, I read about space for hours every morning, and I get to write about it, and I have a writing background, and I get to make graphics, and I like having a creative outlet in that way and making videos. And then the best part is that I get to share it with the world, and that the world likes it. And that my audience are real people who are seeing these videos and are being inspired to look up at night sky events and are inspired to change their careers or go back to school, or even just pick up a hobby or buy a telescope. And those are the things that are just really so beautiful. So I've been so honored and humbled to meet people in person, who have enjoyed or been inspired by my videos. And it's been overwhelmingly positive experiences. And It's usually honestly people who just love space and want to share their favorite space facts or maybe photos they've taken of space.
Mhm.
So I've had really, really positive experiences. Um, and I love it. I really enjoy it so far.
I imagine like the meet and greets, like the VidCon, for example,
Yeah.
is an opportunity just to like geek out with all the other space enthusiasts, and like you just get so energized and excited, and I imagine that the energy in that type of meeting is really high because everybody's so excited, and it's like you said, overwhelmingly positive.
Yeah, those ones are really exciting because that is not a science event.
Mhm.
It's an event for all creators, and I am, so gracious that VidCon invites creators like myself who do education and who do science. And so it's really cool that this event where these mega YouTubers and TikTokers are there, that there's a little pocket of the people who are there who, see me and take a moment to be really excited about space with me. And I think that that's really, really cool. I had a little boy in a NASA t-shirt come up to me, and he said it was so funny. He didn't want anything at all. He didn't want a photo. He came up to me. He went like this. He went, "I know who you are," and then walked away. And it was just like his little recognition in that moment, in his full, like a niche NASA t-shirt. That
Mhm.
was just so funny that he was there at the same event as I was and just wanted to let me know that he knew who I was. It was very funny.
Yeah. Oh, that's so. Is it more fun to meet with kids or an adult?
Both. I
Both.
mean, it's both. I
Yeah.
love it. I love them both.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's totally different conversations.
Of course. Yeah. Yeah. Absolutely.
Yeah.
Let's see. Got one more for Susie, but I know we're trying to get the camera going. I was gonna ask. So, like, what do you guys have coming up? I mean, from what I see online and kind of knowing a little bit of background, I can kind of assume or guess. But I think of like, have you guys ever watched Hot Ones? Sean Evans, host of Hot Ones. Okay, so at the end he's like, this camera, this camera, this camera. Tell the people what you have going on. So what do you have in the future? What's your next exciting opportunity? What are you optimistic about? Do you have any fun projects coming up that you can share? Camille, I know you've got some you can't share yet, but what's coming up that you're excited about?
Yeah, so in a couple of weeks, I am launching something. I'm launching a company.
Oh,
Yeah. So if you put the pieces together, I think people can figure it out. But it's something that we keep coming back to this. Like I just fell into this. Like I never expected to like be in space marketing. I mean, like I went to school for engineering, and I lived and just always heard the feedback of like, oh well, the bachelor's we went to engineering school. And I just like I never believed that, but I never really like thought of myself like doing anything else. And so to like be in business development and strategy and marketing, well, it's a challenge because people just look at me and assume that they assume the worst, unfortunately. And then I'm like, well, I went to I have an engineering degree, and that led me into this, right? And they're like, "Oh, so you're a failed engineer," and I'm like, "That why? Like, can we not?"
throw the shade, like
Right. And so, anyways, all that to say, that was not the point of what I was about to say. So, anyways, I'm launching something in a couple of weeks, actually, that is redefining deep tech marketing and communications and strategy, which I think is very much, very, very, very much needed. And we're taking a pretty unique, actually very unique approach to it. And I've been working on it for almost a year now, but like formally for like a couple of months. So super excited to launch that. I showed the girls my business cards yesterday, and
They're so good.
They're really cute. Yeah. So yeah, doing that, and then but I'll continue to make Galactic Owl content and keep doing cool interviews as they come up, and I have some cool partnerships coming up with some space companies and all that kind of stuff.
very exciting. Okay,
Also, I'm getting married, and these girls are in my wedding. So, if we want to hear about how close we all are.
Oh, that's so exciting. Well, I'm so thrilled for you and all the things you have coming up. I can't wait to see the launch of the company. So I'll be sure to look for an update online. So very exciting. Alexandra, what about you? What do you have coming up? What are you excited about? What fun projects are on the horizon for you?
Well, this weekend I will be at Open Sauce in San Francisco, which is basically a giant adult science fair. It's very exciting. So if anyone's going to be in San Francisco, that's a really fun event, and I will be there. I am really trying to ramp up my YouTube. I'm hoping to venture into some long form content soon, and I also have a couple things brewing and stewing, trying to really expand my portfolio, and short form content will always be my home, but I'm hoping to branch out a lot more in the next year.
Very exciting. Okay, I can't wait to see more. Susie, 2 questions for you. So the first one, if you've ever watched Hot Ones, where they eat hot wings review. Okay, so at the end, Sean Evans says, this camera, this camera, this camera. Tell the people what you have going on. So the question is, what exciting things do you have coming up? Is there a project on the horizon? What are you excited about? And then I'll tell you the second question.
Yeah, so many cool things happening right now. Also, I just want to say I'm so sorry. My setup today has been a nightmare situation. We went computer to phone, back to computer because my phone died. I've been having a great time. This has been so much fun. I'm so sorry. I've been in and out the whole time.
Exciting things with it, and we pivot. It's all good.
It's fine. Thank you. Sorry, guys. Exciting things coming up. I will be in Mexico City talking at Katia Echezarreta's Space Camp the last week and a half of July, which is super exciting. But the lunar lander that I'm working on is going to be launching to the moon this year, and I think that's pretty exciting. And I was just, not coming up, but just recently was named on the American Society of Mechanical Engineers 2025 Young Engineer to Watch. They had like a list, 25 people, which was super exciting. And I'm hoping for something else really exciting to happen this year, but we're just fingers crossed on that one. So
waiting to hear more. Well, again, I'm going to be looking forward for updates. You alluded to it, the lunar lander. That was going to be another question I had for you. Can you share again what you're able to share about this particular project? Do we have a potential timeline? Do we know when this is supposed to happen? When
we have potential timelines. But mostly all I can say is that it is estimated to be launching this year. It is our first lunar lander at the company that I work with. And I'm in charge of all of the science that is going on the lunar lander. 2 of our payloads that are public are NASA payloads. One is the NASA Scalps payload. This is a plume imaging surface camera. So there's cameras all around the bottom of the lander. And when we're landing and the engine is kicking up dust on the surface, we're taking a ton of images of it so that we can characterize how the engine and the thrust capacity interacts with the dust on the surface. And it was really exciting. So that was like my first payload that I've ever done from start to finish. That wasn't on the International Space Station. So that was super exciting. And then our other one is another NASA payload. It is a laser retroreflector array. It's just a small little disc. It is literally about the size of a $50. It is tiny and it is so precious. And they're just chilling, just hanging out. It just gets hit with a laser from a satellite that's already in low lunar orbit. And then they can measure how far, specifically where we land. Is really cool. So those are my 2 exciting payloads that I can talk about. Oh, sorry, go ahead.
No, I was just going to say the original lunar, the thing you just mentioned, laser reflector thingy-majig, the original ones from the Apollo era are how we measured that the moon is moving away from Earth.
Yeah, and there's actually 9 on surface, 7 on Apollo missions, and there are 2 of this exact same retroreflector already on surface on other commercial landers. So this will be number 10. So that's really exciting. So that's my little lander.
Very exciting. And I have to say, I love how excited and giddy you just got talking about it. See that you're excited.
I love social media and I love doing this and I love all the friendships and the stuff that I've made with Outreach. But oh my gosh, payload engineering has my heart. It's in my blood. It's crazy.
Oh, I love that. It's so infectious. It makes all of your listeners excited about it as well.
And she's very good at it.
Oh, I can imagine. I mean, it's so exciting to see all of your backgrounds, all of your careers as you continue to flourish and you've got all these exciting things happening. So I just want to say thank you so much Camille, Alexandra, Susie for being here. It's been such a pleasure to chat with you. I feel like I've gotten to know you each a little bit better and learned a lot along the way as well. So thank you so much for being here. I really appreciate your time.
Thanks for having us.
Thank
Great
you.
conversation.
It's very exciting.
I'm so glad we finally were able to do this, Ashton.
Say that one more time.
I'm so glad we were finally able to do this.
Yes, so exciting. It's been a long time coming. Like I said, been wanting to chat with you guys for a while. So I appreciate your time chatting with me. Want to give a special thank you to our executive director, James Burke, our PR director, Michael Stoltz, our lovely producer, Leah. Thank you so much for your help behind the scenes. And thank you everybody that's tuned in today and supporting Red Planet Live. Going to finish the way that we always do, and that is the best is yet to come. Thanks, everybody. Have a great rest of your day. Bye, guys.